I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kwadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone Well and Shalom, to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, Wa Abba Babal. So I want to relate to you why these small hats think they have the right to destroy anyone that comes against them in their lie. All right, so it says, is Donald Trump the second coming of Cyrus the Great? Which Cyrus was a Persian and East Indian. Trump is an Edomite. He's more like Haman or Haman. It says, as strange as it may sound, Donald J. Trump, the cruel lord of Isaiah 19 and verse 4, the current president of the United States, which he's the king of Babylon, all right, which if you read the history of what Nebuchadnezzar did, he was known for conquering the known world in that time. Trump is more like the king of Babylon than Cyrus the Great. It says, as strange as it may sound, Donald J. Trump, the current president of the United States of America, has been repeatedly likened to Cyrus the Great. Now, I'm going to just get to the point. In Esther 8, all right, it says Mordecai is promoted. It says, on that day did King Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen, which Esther was an Israelite. They were of the tribe of Judah, I believe it was. Let me see. I Google it. So Mordecai and Esther were both from the tribe of Benjamin. So these would have been today so-called Jamaicans or West Indians. But as you see, they lie to you and put up the image of so-called white people. All right. And that's what they're doing even with Trump. They're trying to say that he is like Cyrus the Great, which gave the right to the counterfeits, right, today. But Cyrus the Great gave the Israelite, the true Jew, the right to defend themselves against Haman, which was an Edomite. All right, so once again, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, the so-called white race, and they covered the faces of the judges. They put their images up. This is Renaissance art, reconoclasm. All right, but Mordecai and Esther were of the tribe of Benjamin, which today are the so-called Jamaicans, aka the West Indians. All right. So in the name Jew, it represented Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which were taken into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar, all right, the king of Babylon, which eventually his grandson, not his great-grandson, but his grandson, lost the kingdom to Darius, and then the Persians, which were the stronger half of the Persian Medo Empire, and then you had the Greeks and the Romans, which eventually their two kingdoms fell. Okay? So it says for Haman, right, when you look up Haman, the name Haman, all right, he was an Edomite. And you go to Esther 1. Haman here. This might have just changed because it used to say Amalek. All right, now it's saying different. So sometimes the blue letter goes off. All right, so it says Haman. Yes, Haman was an Amalekite, which today are the counterfeits in our land today. They're Edomites. This is why they use the sword. Specifically identified as Haman the Agagite, a descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites, who was defeated by King Saul, which the Amalekites are the counterfeits in our land today, the small hat, big nose bastards. All right? So you could understand the story. So you have Haman that was plotting on murdering the Israelites because he despised Mordecai, which was of the tribe of Benjamin. Once again, the three tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, were taken into captivity under the Assyrian king that ruled Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. All right. Now, it talks about that they made a decree. It says, the king's decree avenges the Jews. Verse 8, write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month, that is the month Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews and to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of the provinces, which are from India unto Ethiopia, and 127 provinces. So this was a greater kingdom than Babylon the Great, America. Unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by posts on horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries, wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. You see? So let's read that in the NLT. NLT, the king's decree gave the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the Israelites, in every city authority to unite and defend their lives. They were allowed to kill, slaughter, and annihilate anyone of any nationality or province who might attack them or their children and their wives, and to take the property of their enemies. All right. So this was given to Judah, Benjamin, and Levi and Babylon, ancient Babylon. All right. Because you had men like Haman, which he was an Edomite, an Amalekite, which were plotting to take their lives with these other nations. Just like today, now you got the counterfeits, right? Saying that Trump is like Cyrus because he made the deal, the peace deal, right? Where everyone has to lay down or get down with the Amalekites that are in our land, the counterfeits, the descendants of Haman, the relatives of Haman, the Edomite. All right. So this shows you that their whole setup is a goddamn lie. Okay. Because the small hats are not being persecuted like the Jews were in the time of Mordecai. All right. The issue that Haman had with Mordecai was he wouldn't bless Haman because the Israelite is over the Edomite. And that's according to prophecy. And they even knew that there was a power that was with us. When you go into the editions of Esther, all right, Esther, but you got the editions of Esther, and go to the 16th, and this is the 16th chapter and the first verse, which it says, the great king Artaxerxes, which is the same king Ahasuerus, unto the princes and governors of 127 provinces from India unto Ethiopia, and unto all our faithful subjects greeting. Now I'm gonna jump down, but it says about the Israelites. It says, here it is. It says in verse 15, but we find that the Jews whom this wicked wretch had delivered to utter destruction, talking about Haman, he wanted to destroy the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, are no evildoers, but live by the most just laws. All right. It says, and that they be sons of the Most High. This is why we have the name Israel, princes of the power, and most mighty living power, who hath ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner. All right, now I'm going to go to First Esdras. All right, First Esdras in 6, I believe it is. Yep, which the heathen, they were writing unto Darius, all right, for him to pull it. It says, there we go. It says in First Ezra 6 and 12, therefore, to the intent that we might give knowledge unto thee by writing, we demand of them, which these heathen were fucking with the Israelites because they were building the temple, which you had 3 waves of Israelites. You had a first wave with Zerubbabel, a second wave with Ezra, and a third wave with Nehemiah. And when you read about it, you'll read that the heathen were bothering us while we built the kingdom of heaven back up. It says, therefore, to the intent that we might give knowledge unto thee by writing, we demanded of them who were the chief doers, and we required of them the names in writing of their principal men. So they gave us this answer, we are the servants of the Lord which made heaven and earth. And as for this house, it was builded many years ago by a king of Israel, King Solomon, great and strong, and was finished. But when our fathers provoked our power unto wrath, and sinned against the Lord of Israel, which is in heaven, he gave them over into the power of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, of the Chaldees, which they moved in witchcraft of Egypt, which that's what the Chaldees were. They were the witches that were in Egypt, and then Nebuchadnezzar, the Assyrian, took them in, and now America, which we live in today, is operating under that same witchcraft from ancient Egypt. That's why they use the symbols of Egypt, like the back of the dollar, it has a pyramid, or the obelisk in their capital centers. It says, who pulled down the house and burned it, and carried away the people captives unto Babylon. And this was done because Israel was worshiping idols of the heathen. It says, but in the first year that King Cyrus reigned over the country of Babylon, Cyrus the king wrote to build up this house, which he allowed Zerubbabel to go back, and Israelites with him, and the holy vessels of gold and of silver that Nebuchadnezzar had carried away out of the house at Jerusalem, and had set them in his own temple. Those Cyrus the king brought forth again out of the temple at Babylon, and they were delivered to Zerubbabel, which is King David, Moses, if you could accept it, and to Sanabasaras, the ruler, with commandment that he should carry away the same vessels and put them in the temple at Jerusalem, because he gave him permission to rebuild Jerusalem, and that the temple of the Lord should be built in his place. Then the same Sanabasaras, being come hither, laid the foundations of the house of the Lord at Jerusalem. And from that time to this, being still a building, it is not yet fully ended, which there was a time of 2 years where we stopped building because of the heathen bothering us. Now, therefore, if it seem good unto the king, let search be made among the records of King Cyrus. And if it be found that the building of the house of the Lord at Jerusalem had been done with the consent of King Cyrus, and if our Lord the king be so minded, let him signify unto us thereof. And this is another king that they try to say Trump is like Cyrus, the King Cyrus. All right, you can look it up. All right, it says right there, the small hats, the Amalekites, are hailing Trump, which is Nero, as Cyrus returned. That was 4 days ago. All right, because they're trying to say that he's doing the same thing as Cyrus. But what I want to know is why are they not praising Yahweh and Yahweh Shai? Because the prophecies say in these last days we would go back, because Yahweh would send his son Yahweh Shai back, and he would bring us back into that land. All right. So let me get down to the point. I don't want to read this all. So it says in verse 33, let's see. Yep. 33, it says, the Lord therefore, whose name is there called upon, which is talking about Yahweh. And this is, was it Darius? Yep, Darius, verse 34, it says, so he's writing back to him. Okay, he wrote him a letter back when they were questioning, like, who gave these Israelites the permission to rebuild their temple. All right, so it says in verse 33, it says, in fact, I'm going to read, I'll just start at 32. It says, and he commanded that whosoever should transgress, yea, or make light of anything afore spoken or written, out of his own house should a tree be taken, and thereon be hanged. Haman was hanged. That's why it was written this way. And all his goods seized for the king. The Lord, therefore, whose name is there called upon, which is Yahweh, utterly destroy every king and nation that stretch out his hand to hinder or damage the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, which Jerusalem is a people before a place. And the Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery. All right. It says, I, Darius, the king, have ordained that according unto these things it be done with diligence. See, because they knew the power that was with us. They witnessed it many times over. This is why Joseph was raised up to the second position under Pharaoh. This is why Daniel was raised up in the time of Babylon. This is why Mordecai was promoted in his time. All right. And this is why the elect are going to be magnified, because we exalt the name of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai. And these counterfeits, all right, the ones that claim to be a Jew and are not, they don't have no understanding. The wicked shall not understand. All right, but they're gonna go into slavery, and they're gonna have to pay us back for what they've done in our name and how they have destroyed the world. They're gonna have to rebuild the kingdom of heaven. They're gonna have to rebuild this earth. But America, Babylon the Great, is gonna be a memorial of what the Lord does to the ungodly, because they're moving in an ungodly spirit, in the same spirit of Haman, which they're trying to destroy the Israelite, Judah, all the way down to Issachar, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indians. They have it in their heart to try to destroy us. All right, even though they're actors, right? They're hypocrites, and they're trying to act like they're everybody else but an Edomite. These small hat, counterfeit, big nosed bastards are the Edomites. They're Amalekites. And what does the Lord say about Amalek? It says in Exodus 17, verse 16, for he said, because Yahweh has sworn that Yahweh will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. All right, which, let's go to Psalms, and I'll finish it with this, 137, Psalm 137. All right, and verse 7, it says, remember, O Yahweh, the sons of Edom, which Amalek is the grandson of Edom, which today the Amalekites are the counterfeits in our land, the small hat, big nosed bastards. It says, remember, O Yahweh, the sons of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, which they wanted to destroy Jerusalem, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, which is aka America, because Donald Trump, Nero, is moving in the spirit of King of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, trying to conquer the world, which he pretty much tried to enslave them into worshiping him. All right. And he fell. When his pride came, he fell. So we're about to witness Babylon the Great, aka America, fall, because we're seeing the pride of this devil. It says, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. So what you've done unto us, you're going to get back. And we're going to be able to pay you back double. This is why we're going to get you as a slave. Yahweh is going to send his son Yahushai from heaven. This is why you're seeing the white orbs, the great white throne judgment is soon to be at hand after they make the implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling on earth. Worldwide, nuclear destruction, and Yahushai and the host of heaven is going to preserve the elect remnant of Israel and enslave all these heathen under us, and we're going to pay them back for what they've done to us. All right? This is the prophecies. It says, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. And this is why they're going to fight like hell, because they know what they're about to go into, and they're not going to make it out. After 1,000 years, they're going to be made extinct. It tells you that in Isaiah 14 and 21. The Lord don't want them to prosper anymore. He's going to have them be made extinct. So it says in Isaiah 14, verse, 4, it says that thou shalt take up this proverb which is this prophecy against the king of Babylon, which is Trump, which he's moving in the spirit of Nebuchadnezzar, and say, how had the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? What happened to America is shut down, and then is shut down on a Sabbath day, on the Day of Atonement. In 2025, we're praying for judgment. Yahweh have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. So Yahweh, our power, answered our prayers, which the small hat counterfeit, big-nosed bastards are glorifying the king of Babylon and praising America for their support. See? So the prayer of the elect is a bob a ball. It says in Isaiah 14 and 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Talking about America, which Lucifer means light bearer. Son of the morning, which are moving in the spirit of Satan. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Which marvel not, because Satan portrays himself as an angel of light. All right, but they weaken the nations. It says when the wicked rule, the people mourn because they're being weakened. When we rule, the people are going to rejoice because they're going to be strengthened. They're going to have many children and have much production on earth, which they're going to give to us the cream of the crop. Now, I'm going to jump down to 21. It says in verse 21, prepare slaughter for his sons, for the iniquity of their fathers, which they're going to receive what they're planning to do to us. So they're going to be slaughtered for his sons, for the iniquity of their fathers, for what they've done in the past and what they're planning to do in the future, that they do not rise nor possess the land nor fill the face of the world with cities. So he's going to make them extinct so that they don't come back and multiply. For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts. So this is Yahweh saying this. All right. This ain't my words. All right. This is Yahweh's words. It says, for I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts. Who? The Amalekites, which rule the world through America, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith Yahweh. So it's all downhill from the destruction of their empire, the Babylon the Great, which is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles shot off by their allies, the European Union, NATO, their other allies, UN nations, and their enemies, the BRIC nations. And they're going to turn America, the whore, into a lake of fire. All right. And the remnant of them that hide in the bunkers in different parts of the earth, these billionaire bunkers, they're going to be preserved for slavery. They're going to go into slavery for 1,000 years, all the nations. And out of all these nations, these 17 nations, one nation has no future, and it's Edom, the so-called white race. Their future is extinction, according to biblical prophecy. It says, verse 23, I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith Yahweh of hosts. But she's going to give it to Russia, and he's going to be a guard to these other nations, all right, against Edom, America, and the counterfeits that are in our land. It says in Isaiah 13 and 17, behold, I will stir the Medes, which are the Russians today, against them which shall not regard silver. And as for gold, they shall not delight in it, because they're going to go digital. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Those nuclear missiles, they devour man, woman, and child. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, this is why you had all these people that wanted to migrate to America, right, which they're attacking the so-called immigrants, which shows you that this kingdom is at its end. If it was a kingdom that was prosperous, it would do like they did during the time of Alexander the Greek, which they absorbed different kingdoms. And this is why when the Romans conquered, all right, they had all these different nations in their military. All right. But now we're at the end of the kingdom of the wicked, the Edomites, Babylon the Great, who are to be destroyed. And this is why they're attacking the immigrant, which is actually the one that makes the kingdom prosper and expand. All right. So America is in its dying days. That's what it is according to prophecy. And if you examine the times in themselves, you could see that this place is going out, and it's going to go out with a great bang. Nuclear destruction, all right, and it's going to be turned into a lake of fire according to biblical prophecy. It says, the beauty of the Chaldees, which they built this place in witchcraft, excellency shall be as when Yahweh sent his son Yahushai and overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, so Sodom and Gomorrah, you had fire come down from heaven, which it's going to come through nuclear missile this time. Okay, you can look it up for yourself. It says Sodom and Gomorrah now a desert. All right, which they say this is the Lot's wife, which I could believe that according to biblical prophecy. And you can see that it's a place of pools of water. All right. And this is what America is going to be. America is going to be a desert and pools of water, which eventually desert creatures are going to live in the desert, which was once America. Okay. And this is how America's future is going to turn out. And the Edomite is going to be made extinct. All right. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Wa abba babal.